popping with the population? It's another episode of Do-Rag with the Cape Roll. uh, you know, just trying to stay on brand with the Dewey on, to protect the waves and whatnot. I did hear something wild where I guess this was in the public discourse about like, yo, dudes having waves is zesty. It's like, fam, I can't take care of myself. And then even still, I'm not even using like Dax and Murray's, but if I was, what does that mean? And what is masculinity really? Like, what are you saying to me? Like, brushing my hair is not, what? Like, I saw that list that people claimed that some woman or somebody put out, but really it's just, people just be stirring the pot. Honestly, all of these arguments of what's masculine or what's feminine and what's this and that, it's just really just stirring the pot. Like whatever you believe is what you believe. But in all honesty, when you really look at the grand scheme of things of like how humans interact and how we move around, like how you define yourself is really up to you. Like I think trying to hold on to what's masculine because you're you're a male identifies as a man or whatever, you're female identifies as a woman, and what's feminine, like what's that? Like you just hold it. You're just holding on to identify. But you can identify that because they say like, oh yeah, femininity is like being a mom, like taking care of the kid, like nurturing and caring and stuff like that. It's like, no, innately I would imagine that like both sides of the spectrum do that. Like people who have dads in their lives or whatever have you, I'm sure they care about you and want to make sure like that you're doing the best that you can for yourself. That's, nurture. Like just like your mom, like maybe it doesn't look the same, but it's the same. So I don't know why we are at these arguments of like gender or whatnot in this era, and people are like, oh yeah, this and the third, with like the transphobia and how can, like you were born this, you can't say that. It's like, what are your identifiers? Like, what are we really chatting about? Because like, I pose the question to anybody, like, whatever, like, look at who you are and break down your identity and see how much of that is built off of like just basic stuff you're supposed to be doing for yourself, and then how some of that is built off of trauma. And I say that because you talk about for me being a man, talk about like, yo, being tough, it's taking care of this and this and this and this. But like, if a dude shows any kind of weakness when it comes to like being tired or just like wanting to date himself or this and the third, they call him weak. It's like, fam, I'm a human. Like, my identity is not defined by what I can produce. And I feel like that's where we end up in these toxic situations. I don't ever want to say toxic femininity or toxic masculinity, because those two things aren't toxic. Toxic people can add traits to what they think those things are to make what they think those things are to be toxic. But I don't think those two things in and of themselves are toxic. And I think, you need to step back and realize like what makes you this and what makes you that. Like, it's up to you. And like you kind of define that, like whatever on the outside should be seen as cannon fodder, really, because if your existence is defined by what everybody else poses it to, if your existence is defined by what everybody else says, then who are you living for? Like, what are you really doing out here? And like, what makes you you? And like. Because, like, if we look at, like, for instance, you look at, like, being a man, like I said, like, you see a lot of dudes, like, who feel like, yo, I should be out here, like, smashing every joint I come across. I need to, sow my royal oats, like Prince Hakeem. If you don't know that reference, and you're probably too young to be watching this, I need to be doing it. I need to, be out here, like, making sure my shorty look right, and, like, I can't be messing with, like, I got to be messing with a certain type of shorty. She got to be, young, whatever, this and a third, and some dudes be going to the farthest extremes of young, like for instance, like Giddey, like allegedly. I say allegedly because I ain't trying to get sued, but allegedly, homie was out here messing with a young shorty. There's pictures. She was in a club. There's a lot of discourse about it. People are arguing that it's kind of weird because, like, look at the situation like Kevin Porter, who him and his shorty, she's a WNBA player. They had a situation go down where there was some DV that happened allegedly or whatever, but where it went down, it happened how it happened. He ended up getting traded and waived immediately. He don't got a job. He out here fighting cases. Some of the charges, if I'm not mistaken, got dropped. Shorty has come out recently saying like, yo, the way that the cops framed this is not correct. Like, it didn't go down how they claiming it went down. They kind of coerced the story and like flipped it how they wanted to and this and the third. But he's out of the league. But Josh Giddey, had his situation go down. The most that's happening to him is that some of the games he plays, the fans are booing him. But like he's allegedly messed with a child. And then that's somebody like Johnathan Majors, who, he got his situation where some of the charges been dropped, supposedly, if I'm not mistaken. But he allegedly put his hands on the shorty, but he was like doing a wellness check and they found her in the bedroom, in the closet, half naked. She threw up all over the bed, pills everywhere. She was trying to unalive herself. Supposedly, allegedly, the cops coerced the story out of shorty. It wasn't how it was supposed to. It wasn't how they framed it. And we tried to get that down and he done lost his role as king or whatever. And like those situations, people are arguing, or you look at Kyrie with the him posting that video link where I think it was dumb on his part to post the link. All he had to really say was, yo, my bad. Like, and he did say my bad about a lot of stuff, and I think the reaction to it was a little much. It was too much. He lost his Nike deal behind it. But like he was standing on his ground because it's like, yo, I said sorry. Like, what else do you want me to do? Like, nevertheless, people are arguing like this is a race thing, and like I said before, race is a social construct. Colorism predates that, and colorism is the actual thing people are. Colorism is really what people are mad at. It's colorism and culture, because race doesn't exist. Because we're all humans, but we don't need. There's so many discourses and so many books and billions of YouTube videos you can watch and realize that like race is a social construct, and if you break everything down, everything's racist. Surprise, but people are arguing like, is this race? Is this whatever? Like fam, it's a little bit of like that, and like as how our society operates within that, and then it's a lot of like not really kind of caring about like victims, and then not really giving a damn about the accused either, because there'll be people that do stuff or allegedly do stuff, and then stuff goes away, and there's been plenty of talks about this. Stuff goes away, and nobody ever says like sorry to like the people that do stuff. The only person I've ever seen like people rally behind is Johnny Depp. Like Amber Heard came out wilding, saying he was doing all this stuff. People were like, yo, Pirates of the Caribbean gone. Like all of this. And then come to find out she pooping on his bed. They both terrible for each other. Like she cut his finger. Like they both was awful to each other. But she did a lot of like bad stuff. And people like came out like, oh, yo, my bad, Johnny. But nobody like comes to the aid or like steps up behind anybody else of any other color or any other like, for the most part, of any other like back when we figure out that it wasn't what it was. And then in that dynamic too, you'll have like people who are accused of things that people are immediately rally behind them, or just immediately blame the victims of said situation, and it leads you to the thought like, do people really care about justice, or do you just want to scream at somebody? Like, are you just mad, bruh? Like, do you really care? Because think about what happened with Bill Cosby. Like, he was out here wilding for decades. A lot of people wasn't saying that because they were scared, or it was just a time. People was just out here, doing felonious acts. People was out here wilding. And rather than people being like, yo, that's wild, like he possibly may have did this. Let's figure this out. It was like, nah, he ain't do it. These are women are lying. They want bread. Like, he was trying to buy NBC. It's like, what, fam? What are you talking about? Like, do you really care? Or like, again, with like the Josh Josh Giddey situation. Like, there's a bunch of news and stuff going around, outlets saying this and that and third, but they're trying to figure it out. But like the NBA kind of letting him rock, but he's being accused of like wilding out like some Catholic priest was, and probably still are. And he just his repercussions for his actions is just getting booed at some basketball games. Kevin Porter, they came at dude when immediately he got arrested. Come to find out, a lot of that didn't go down how they thought it did, and he don't have a job. Kyrie Irving had his situation, said what he said, they apologized for it, but they wanted more out of him, I guess. He lost his Nike deal. Like, are we really chasing justice, or are you just mad and you just want somebody to scream at? And it's just easier to get away with attacking someone from a different from a background that's socially acceptable to attack. Like, it's socially acceptable to tear down black and brown men, and just black folk in general, black women, and then it's socially acceptable to tear down black and brown men, and just black people, brown people, and people of other colors in general in the States. And it's also socially acceptable across the board to tear down women of all colors, shapes, and sizes. Even though white women tend to get like, is it respite? Whatever, like they tend to fare better in the tear downness. Like, they do get torn down when it comes to these accusations and stuff like that, but people tend to like, Amber Heard, bro, she had the whole set behind her wilding out. But overall, it's easier and it's socially acceptable to tear down black and brown folk and just women. So let me look at the Cassie situation and everybody like coming out about like what's going on and trying to get some kind of justice, or at least get Cashapp, which would be justice for whatever they went through. People like, oh, she should have said something this and the third, yeah. That's like, fam, what? Like, do you understand how trauma and pain works? Like, you can't. There's people that are going to like psychiatrists and they were going to therapy now in psychiatry and dealing with a psychiatrist now behind trauma that they've faced when they were like 9. And you telling this young lady who was dealing with somebody in a position of power that, yeah, she should have said something as soon as it happened. What? He blew up somebody's car. Like, he blew up a whole car, fam. Kid Cudi said he blew up a car. So I'm not even saying alleged. Well, I will say alleged because I don't want Sean Combs to sue me. I mean, I don't got a big enough platform for him to even care, but nevertheless, I think it's pretty. I think it's more of a mob mentality when it comes to the justice system, because in and of itself, the justice system has never been a beacon of actual justice, especially for black and brown people, especially for women. Because if you look at something like, for instance, if you ever saw the movie with, I think it's Jodie Foster, The Accused, which was wild because the woman in The Accused, she wasn't white. The woman was like, she was from South America. Because there's a big community, damn, I forgot what that woman was. RP to her. But nevertheless, the movie The Accused was about a woman who in Massachusetts was assaulted at a bar by several men. And while that happened, trigger, well, I'm already explaining, but while it happened, people were cheering it on. Like, they were egging on what was happening to this woman. She ended up saying something, went to court about it, didn't really get judged. Because like 6 people that got arrested. I think 3 of them got time. Excuse me, and 3 of them didn't. It was like 3 people that actually put their hands on her, and 3 people that was like hyping the situation. Imagine being in that kind of whatever, hyping the situation. Like, I think 3 of them actually got knocked, 3 of them got off. Pause. And she later ended up passing away, like, because she dealt with a lot of grief. She moved out of Massachusetts after that, was living in Florida or whatever. I think, dealt with a lot of grief, ended up dying, I think, Christmas weekend, like a few years later, because she hit a pole driving home. But like, there's a documentary about that situation that's not the movie The Accused, but the movie The Accused is about her. where you see how it wasn't about justice. Like the court, her case was one of the reasons why like court TV exists. Like they was hype about her case. There was a lot going on. Like her case was one of the reasons why like people sensationalize like stuff like Judge Mathis and all that stuff exists because they was like in the courtroom with it. And she didn't really want her name and nothing that be out there. And somebody, and I think the judge said her name, and that caused a bunch of problems. But nevertheless, if you look up that situation, it's very sad. But if you look up the accused and you look up the woman that Jodie Foster was portraying, you look up her story, you realize that it's not really about justice in this system at all. It's just about who you mad at, and who you could be mad at could be the person that something bad happened to. Like, for instance, with this woman, I forgot what her background is again, but that community that was in Massachusetts was so mad about what she was saying and was blaming her for the situation, saying she was drunk, she shouldn't have been out there. Why was she dressed like that? All of the tropes, all of the fun ones. They had a protest of like 10,000 people with 3 of the dudes that were accused, like, yo, it's her fault, get her, blah, blah, blah. They had a protest about it. And this is in like, if I'm not mistaken, in the early 90s or like the late 80s. So this wasn't like the Salem witch trials. So, yeah, I think the identity of our society is at large is just who can I yell at? It's not really, make sure my mic is so low. It's not really a matter of like, are we trying to figure this out? Like a lot of objectivity is like falls to the wayside. People just immediately get in their emotions and don't try to figure things out and don't do the critical thinking to tear apart the layers and realize like, what are we really getting at? When you come to the NBA situation, you're like, yo, fam, y'all trying to be better than the NFL as far as like the optics, but you got like dude still playing ball, and he shouldn't be like just objectively he should just be sitting out until we figure this out. You got somebody like Miles Bridges who he did his time. He got suspended like 15 games, I think, and he like went in for like an assault charge. So, but he like, there's no, oh yeah, he didn't really do it from what I understand. So I don't want to put no smut on his name, but there's already enough going on with him. So from what I understand, there wasn't no like he didn't do what he was accused of doing. He just did like 15 games. Kevin Porter doesn't have a job, and it's like slowly coming. I mean, it's coming out day by day or whatever that what was said about him wasn't necessarily correct, and that like the police is like dragging it to get a conviction. Because that's the other thing. Again, the justice system ain't about justice. Because if you even think about like people getting locked up, like if you ever been arrested or ever dealt with any time or dealt with something about to give you some type of time, especially public defenders or lawyers or whatever, they're all in cahoots with each other. But they'll come to you like, yo, take this deal, take this and the third, like plea deal this, plea deal that, because they're just trying to find a conviction. They throw a bunch of charges at you on purpose. So anytime you hear charges for somebody on the news, or he got 30 charges, he got 17 charges, they do that on purpose. They stockpile charges on you, and then they slowly peel back the layers of them because they want you to take like 2 or 3 of them, and they really want you to take a deal. They really want you to take a deal if you don't take the time. But if you don't take the deal, then you will take the time because you're not going to beat the charges because they put so many on you, and you probably don't have the funds to afford a good enough lawyer to be able to finesse the system in a way that gets you to where you need to be. Because the other thing you need to understand about the court system is that it's not a court of law, it's a court of educated opinion. So basically, it's not about what you know, it's about what you can prove. And then also when it comes to like the prosecution just has to find a way to make the defense look guilty. The defense is just there. The prosecution is just finding out how I can make you look guilty. So if your defense team ain't doing what they need to do to make you look good, then prosecution gonna get what they want. And then a lot of times you got a public defender. The public defender don't really care. He got a bunch of cases. She got a bunch of cases. So one hand wash the other, both wash their face. They're just looking to put somebody away because if you're just another cog in the system of the prison industrial complex, and you out here making Nike sneakers or T-Mobile phones, whatever, allegedly, because there is prison labor that does make outside products. But yeah, you just got to realize that it's all a game, bro. And like when you kind of, peel back the layers, then you get to the point where you're just like, damn, you got to, throw your do-rag on and tuck the cape in. All right, please.